Today will be diabetes number 5. It will be about biochemistry, introduction to metabolic pathways. I will explain how carbohydrates, protein and fat is turned into energy. So first we have to understand glucose is the form of carbohydrates that is transported in the body. Carbohydrate is a form of energy and in one of the macronutrients. Acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, first we try to understand what is this. A coenzyme is a chemical molecule that works together with an enzyme. Yeah. So co-pilot and pilot lah. So enzyme, coenzyme and enzyme work together to form something. Right. To form an end product lah. It's not the end product yet. Yeah. So coenzyme A is the first one lah. So it is the center lah. Consider the center. You can see in the orange box. All major nutrients are degraded into acetyl-CoA. So when you eat fat, triglycerides becomes acetyl-CoA. When you eat protein, amino acids also become acetyl-CoA. When you eat carbohydrates, it becomes glucose. Glucose eventually becomes acetyl-CoA. And then what happens to this acetyl-CoA? It enters into the TCA cycle. This TCA cycle, I will explain there are many steps here. So this TCA cycle will then give you the energy. Okay, of course from glucose to acetyl-CoA also got energy is produced, but the TCA cycle is the most part lah of the energy production. Acetyl-CoA can become cholesterol, can become ketone bodies. You see the arrow is double. It can become fat. Fat also can become acetyl-CoA. So acetyl-CoA can also become many other things. It can become like melatonin, which is a skin pigment. It can become acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. It can become maybe other things as well lah, that I have not found. So you can see acetyl-CoA, it can enter the citric acid cycle, which is a TCA cycle. It can become ketone bodies as well. Okay, now we have to try to understand what is coenzymes NAD plus and FAD. NAD plus and FAD is a coenzyme that is produced by the body. Okay, not all coenzymes can be produced by the body. Some you need to eat like vitamin C. Yeah, some you need to eat vitamin B to make the coenzyme. But this coenzyme is produced by the body, and it reacts with hydrogen and an electron to form NADH and FADH2. Okay, so for example, the chart here shows FAD plus one hydrogen atom, which is a hydrogen ion plus an electron. You get eventually FADH2. Why you want to get FADH2 is because when you have a hydrogen bond, this hydrogen bond is a potential energy source. So when you need energy, it will break down FADH2, go back to FAD. Right, and then the hydrogen bond will break and then you have energy. Right, so the point number 2, during oxidation, the H here will break off and then it will form water. It will form water, H2O. React with O2 lah to form water, and then you will get ATP. 3 ATPs for NADH and 2 ATPs for FADH2. ATP, what is this ATP? Okay, ATP is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate. Triphosphate means there are 3 phosphate bonds. Okay, you can see the diagram here. Phosphate bonding with oxygen. ADP is diphosphate, 2 bonds. Monophosphate is AMP, 1 bond. Mono, di, and tri. So You can see the diagram here, ATP and ADP. When it changes from ATP to ADP, it releases energy. It releases 30.5 kilojoules per mole. So one bond, just breaking the bond, okay, 1 mole can give you 30.05 kilojoules, 30.5 kilojoules. So it is the phosphate and the oxygen is a very strong bond. It's a very high energy bond. So this ATP is used as a currency. It's used as the final, how to say, it's like a regulator. Okay, this is where later you will see how it works. Okay, so okay, so it goes ADP to ATP, ADP to AMP also release energy and all . But in the body is when we exercise is ATP to ADP. Okay, so what is glycolysis? Glyco means glucose, come from word glucose. Lysis means breaking, so it's the breaking of glucose. Glucose is a 6 carbon atom, so we want to break it into pyvurate, which is 3 carbon. 2, so 6 carbon can break into 2 pyvurates, 2 times 3. Okay. Glycolysis happen in all cells, whether it's the heart, muscle, every cell got glycolysis. Pyvurate is transported. Okay, once break down the pyruvate, then it will go into the mitochondria. Then from the mitochondria, then it will be turned into acetyl-CoA. And then OAA will react with acetyl-CoA to form citrate. So step number 4, I will explain later. It's not here yet. Okay, so this is the diagram. On the right, we see glucose. When glucose become glucose 6-phosphate, it uses energy, ATP to ADP. So energy is utilized, right? So you need to consume energy. Then it goes down further, another step. Energy is you have to use energy to produce fructose 1,6-biphosphate. Okay, but then when it comes to here, NAD is changed to NADH. So now you got energy generation. And then now you got energy generation. And then now you got energy generation. So how much energy is generated? 2 ATP is used, but 2 ATP is generated. So these two net off with these two. But this part here, 1 NADH is 2 ATP. So total of glycolysis, you get 2 ATP production. Okay, so in the end, you get pyruvate. So total of 2 ATP is produced. And how to start and how to stop this process is glucagon and insulin. Okay, so glucagon and insulin will either act on the AMP level. Okay, so AMP then will become ATP, ADP, and then ADP become ATP. But if you got no AMP, how you want to get ADP? Right. So glucagon and insulin will either stimulate or inhibit. And it will also stimulate and inhibit this thing will also inhibit the change of fructose 6-phosphate . Okay. So now go to the TCA cycle. The TCA cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle, is starts from pyruvate. Pyruvate becomes it starts from acetyl-CoA. It comes from pyruvate. Okay, pyruvate is from the glycolysis, and then it becomes acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA will mix with OAA. OAA is oxaloacetate. These two mix together, you get citrate. Right, these two will form citrate. So it goes into a big circle. Citrate, and then it goes all the way, come back to acetyl-CoA, but each time it goes, it loses 2 carbon atoms. Okay, so and then we can see how about amino acid. Amino acid, you can see here, amino acid can become AKG. Amino acid can become succinyl-CoA, can become fumarate, can become yep, and I think can become pyvurate also. Right, so like here, all these kind of amino acid will become pyvurate, and then it goes acid. Right, these three become amino acid. So various amino acid will enter the Krebs cycle or the TCA cycle at different stages. Okay, it will be transformed into different coenzyme to enter the Krebs cycle or the citrate cycle. Now we talk about the regulation. So how the body know how to start and how to stop the cycle. Just now is insulin. I explained insulin and glucagon for glycolysis. But when it comes to the TCA cycle, it is mainly the concentrations of ATP and ADP. Too much, the cell must maintain a constant ATP level at all times. Okay, and also NADH must be constant. Right, so it's not like ATP. Some they say it's like money. The more money you have, the better. Okay, no, ATP is not like currency. It's not like money to me lah. Okay, ATP is just intermediate, the final end product, which must be constant lah at all times. So too much, then it will stop the cycle. Okay. Now we go to ketone bodies. So ketone bodies are produced from acetyl-CoA in the liver. Okay, in the liver only, and it's transported to the tissues like brain, muscles to enter the TCA cycle through acetyl-CoA. So you can see on the picture here, you can see the liver, acetyl-CoA, acyl-CoA becomes acetyl-CoA, acetyl-CoA become ketone bodies. It can also go into the citric acid cycle, but acetyl-CoA when become ketone bodies, right, because there's no food, when got no food, then it will change, it won't go into the citric acid cycle, it will go into ketone bodies because of glucagon. So glucagon will bring the ketone bodies, some of it will come out in the urine, right, which is very good for weight loss. Some of it will go into the lungs, because you want to, because of waste, acid, and some of it, and the rest of it will go into the muscle, and then it will change back to acetyl-CoA, right? From acetyl-CoA become ketone body, but in the muscle, ketone body become acetyl-CoA, and then it will change into citric acid, go into the citric acid cycle, and produce your energy. So in conclusion, ATP is a final form of storage. NAD and FADH is also a form of storage, but this is just to convert ADP to ATP. Okay, this is a form of storage, but it's an intermediate storage. ATP is the final storage. I left out all the enzymes because every reaction requires an enzyme. So imagine how many enzymes there are. If there are 15 reactions, there are 15 enzymes. Okay, there's so many enzymes, I cannot name all of them. So we see that the pathways, the metabolic pathways of all macronutrients are linked in many different places. This allows storage and usage when the time is right. Okay, the body knows when is the right time because the molecules themselves are sensitive to the concentrations of others. And then there are hormones like glucagon and insulin, and various endocrine hormones that activates or inhibits. The liver is a centralized location to store energy and to produce ketone, glycogen, and produce ketone. There are many more steps I left out, okay? Because the main goal is to understand how the body utilizes nutrients to deal with diabetes or to prevent diabetes. So we want to understand how metabolism works. So any question I can be reached through email. Thank you. Bye.